This is a special edition of Issues in Education coming to you from the brand new and beautiful Dressel Elementary in the Lindbergh School District. Dr. Craig Hamby is the school principal, and Dr. Patrick Schoenekase is our guest today, the school assistant principal. Thank you both for joining us. It is gorgeous here. How does a building like this affect the school culture, Dr. Hamby?
Well, first of all, thank you for joining us this evening. Glad to have you here. And culture is one of the most important parts of a school. Dr. Schoenekase and I have talked about this, like what's the most important thing in a school? We believe it is the climate or the culture. And a building like this, as you see all the natural light that pours in and the LED lighting that we have here, just makes it brighter and more energetic. And I think that the facility does have an effect on the climate of our school.
And all the windows? Like when you walk by the gym, there's a huge wall-sized window so parents can look in.
Being able to be outside the gym and see what's going on inside, if you even events after school, if you were to need to take a phone call or let's say you had a small child with you can actually go outside the gym and still see what's going on in the gym, which I think is wonderful.
I even catch myself walking in different areas just staring out the window with the kids, just seeing what's going on outside, and they love that view from inside the library straight on out through the window. So it's a unique part of our buildings.
Let's talk a little bit about the curriculum. What makes Dressel stand out?
Well, we still have the same curriculum as the other Lindbergh schools. It's the same procedures and process as everyone else. But I think our facility, we have a few STEM spaces that other buildings may not have, which allow us to. One of the main things we want to do with STEM, and jump in here, Pat, anytime you want to, is gives the kids. It's kind of a problem-based approach. So a problem is presented to the students, and then they're going to work in teams to come up with a solution to that problem. And what STEM gives us is an opportunity to, instead of teaching subjects in isolation, we get to blur the lines of those subjects, and you'll use everything you know about science and technology and engineering and architecture and mathematics and writing and reading, literally everything to come up with a solution to that problem. And one of the key parts of it is another thing that Dressel allows us to do is some of our spaces were designed for a lot of collaboration between students, so that the students don't work as individuals all the time, but get opportunities to work together.
Mm-hmm.
And as we get to know our building more and our spaces, that will continue to evolve, as we learn.
So you all watched the building go up, right? And you were in different schools within the district?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right.
Any questions that you had or asked as it was going up?
It was most likely, but it's been kind of a blur. I mean, it took several years to go through, but it went very quickly. Once they had the foundation poured, it seemed like the building went up rather quickly. I say that knowing that it also seemed like, when is it going to be finished? So it was I guess a double-edged sword there. It was but it was for me, and this is my 22nd year in education, and this was a learning experience for me. I'd never been involved in anything like this, and to see all of the thought that goes into the planning of every single part of it, the details of the electricians whatever they had to do it was amazing. I learned so much as we went through this process.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about, Dr. Hamby, and we discussed this a little bit earlier, but when children in elementary schools now are taught about intruder danger, how does that look? How does that work? And does it scare the children?
Unfortunately, it's a state of education now that we do intruder drills. It's something that when I first started in education, and I don't know if it was for Pat, but we didn't have those. No. So 20 years ago, we did not have intruder drills. And now we do intruder drills as often as we do earthquake drills or tornado drills. As I was speaking earlier, the only drill we do more than that is a fire drill. Mm-hmm. But it's something that we always try to give the parents plenty of lead time so they can talk to their children about. We make sure that the teachers talk to the children about exactly what we're doing. When we get on the intercom to announce that we're going to do the drill, we make sure the children know this is just practice in case there would be someone in the building that shouldn't be in the building, and how we're going to handle that situation. So can it be frightening for students who are, ages 5 to 10? Absolutely can be, but we try to make sure the kids have all the information they need not to be frightened, and that they know we're doing these drills so we keep them safe.
Mm-hmm. We try to be really proactive. I mean, getting a lot of information out there. We have police officers here that day as well, walking, before the drill, so kids know that it's safe. So try to be as proactive as possible when we get to those situations.
And then when you have those drills, and I guess you have fire drills and tornado drills, how do the students react in the drill situation?
I would say with most of our drills now, they're pretty used to it. It's not something new. It's not, a building like this, we're going to have to figure out where our spaces are and how do we get out and in this area where, but, our kids coming to us have practiced these at their other buildings. And so it's a familiar thing to them. It's just trying to figure out our routines and where we're going. So as soon as we get across that hurdle, it'll be like old hat to them.
They do a wonderful job. The tornado spaces that we have here in the building, which are also unique to Dressel.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Sure,
they can't see it, but I'm sure you
absolutely.
can describe it.
So you guys can see where I'm pointing at right now. In the building, on the first floor, on one side of the first floor, we have 3 spaces that are classified as tornado shelters. So they have FEMA-approved doors. The ceilings are such that it's a concrete slab ceiling. It's underground, so we'd be completely safe to load the school in there. So as opposed to just being out in the hallway and keeping your heads covered, we're in a nice, safe shelter. And the largest one in the middle, our multi-purpose room, as we call it, we could actually fit the entire school in there. But since we have a couple other spaces, we don't jam them all in there. And over the past couple of days, we've been working with the students about where they would go and kind of to answer to your earlier questions, they do wonderful with the drills. They know that it's important. We teach them that you need to practice exactly how we would handle this in a real situation, and you need to be able to hear your teacher's instructions, and be in the right place at the right time. And I think they do a wonderful job of it.
And what I would add as a parent, of a kid going in as a kindergartner, knowing that my child has somewhere, built for one of those situations, it's comforting. And I know, hearing parents talk about that is, it's reassuring to them that they have a safe place for the kids to go to.
Well, and I guess all new elementary schools, as they're built, will have these because it's like a huge underground, comfortable room, and you can fit all the kids from Dressel Elementary in there.
It would be a wonderful, anybody listening, it would be a wonderful idea to include this in their plans.
And I'm talking to Dr. Craig Hamby, who's the school principal here at Dressel Elementary School, and Dr. Patrick Schoenekase, who is the assistant principal. So it's been a while since I've gone to elementary school. How are kids punished these days if they act up in class?
We don't tell them about. We don't want to share that information right now.
We do a lot of what we would call, I guess, restorative practices, building relationships with the students. So I don't know that the word punishment is one. Sometimes there are consequences. There are consequences for your actions, and everyone needs to learn that as they grow up. But we're always about learning from our mistakes. I mean, these are children. They're, like I said, 5 to 10 years old. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to do things, and they're going to have to learn what's the proper thing to do. And that's usually what we ask them is, like, you made a mistake. Contacting parents is one of the biggest consequences that we have, is to, let the parents know what's going on and having them talk to the child at home to make sure that if there was a mistake made, that we can learn from it and not repeat it.
But restorative, so you mean you want the child to understand the consequences of the action and then make amends if there's another child involved?
A lot of times it might be talking it out if 2 children would have a disagreement. We sit around and talk out about, maybe trying to develop some empathy for the situation, and so that they can move forward and hopefully build that relationship instead of tearing it apart.
That's what I was going to go back to. When you had talked about the culture, I mean, that's part of the culture is the relationships we start building from day one. And when we get to those hard times when the kids are making some difficult choices, it helps us work through those a little bit easier.
And so how do you handle bullying? And are there any anti-bullying programs in place at Dressel Elementary?
We have we fall back on our student leadership program, which is synonymous with character education. So we're always trying to teach students to respect one another and treat others as they would want to be treated. And then if we have a scenario where a student might be targeting another student, we do have a certain protocol that we go through, communication with both families, and making sure that we try to, once again, come back to that. Is there a way to rebuild this relationship? Is there a way to build empathy between these 2 children so that we can not only get past it for right now, but maybe they're going to learn a lesson they can carry on later in life to help them be more respectful to others?
I would add, too, that our counselors are actively engaged in the classrooms, going from classroom to classroom, working on bullying lessons, talking with kids, So it's a very open-door policy with us, Dr. Hamby and I, and the counselors, that at any point anybody can walk in and talk with us. So
I know kids hear a lot about it, and I've wondered if they get sick of hearing about bullying and become sort of, desensitized.
One of the things we try to teach them is what it truly is, and that just having a disagreement is not bullying. And sometimes that's the first thing someone wants to throw out. They looked at me wrong. They're bullying me. It's like, well, no, we've got a disagreement here, but it's not actual bullying, which would be kind of a habitual behavior. So teaching them, and our counselors do a wonderful job of that, of, what actually is it, and when do we report things? And then what's the process of after you report it, how are we going to handle this situation?
Now, do children in elementary school do any service learning projects, and what would those look like?
So I'm going to let Pat talk about that. He's got all kinds of ideas.
So as we begin to really build our character ed program, most of our students have come from a building that are modeling our character program after the Leader in Me, which is there's 7 habits of highly effective kids, happy kids. And so part of that also is this give back to our community and this service. And so one of they're familiar with all of those. So as we go throughout this year, we're going to be looking for service learning projects for our kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. So also in our district, we have 5th graders who can earn, service learning awards, bronze, silver, and gold.
There's a Presidential Service Award that 5th graders can receive as a recognition at the end of the year. So just in the last week, I've been speaking to the 5th graders about what is a service, what can you do for service hours, and how many they would have to do to receive that recognition. So it's service is a word that most of the kids know very well, and we kind of feel like if all the words we throw out there, leader would be habits or character education, but when you learn to serve other people, you've really done something. You've learned a lesson.
Do you think kids are naturally kind and compassionate, or do they need to see that in action?
Well, I think they are. I would agree. Yes, I think they are. But much like I always tell parents that read to your kids, because students need to hear fluent reading. To be better readers, they need to hear, what does it sound like? And I think the same thing is when you want to be a good friend or you want to show kindness, they need to have that modeled for them. They need to see adults doing it too.
Do kids come into kindergarten knowing how to read?
Some do. Some don't. Some know how to do math better than others. Some have better social skills. So they all come in different shapes and sizes. So we work with them from where they are, and take them from there in every area, in every aspect. So,
is there any way in which you would advise parents who might have kids who will be coming to Dressel Elementary next year in kindergarten how they can prepare their child?
I would say the same thing I just said, and it's my advice always to kindergarten parents: read to your children. Read to your children.
Read to them, but don't make them read.
They just need to hear reading and see kind of a love for reading. That it can be a fun activity, it can be something to do with the family and something they can enjoy, and just really enjoy books and have a lot of books around and read to the kids. I think it's one of the most important things they can do.
Because remember, I think it was around 2010, somebody wrote a book, Teach My Baby to Read. And so there were parents who were saying, yes, my baby, my toddler can learn how to read. And other parents said, no, it's too much pressure. Let's work on the social skills. And
there is a lot of pressure on kids these days. There's a lot of standardized testing that probably gets a lot more press now than it used to in years past. So there's a lot of pressure on children as they get older. I mean, there's always been standardized testing in the high schools and middle schools, but it seems like things get pushed down. There's a lot of pressure on kids. So we still want kids to have fun. We want them to play. They need to. It's a part of their education. They need to learn how to interact with one another and learn those social skills.
And what about your policy on cell phones at Dressel Elementary in the Lindbergh School District?
Cell phones are a part of life now, especially when kids. I'm looking at one of our 5th graders right here coming up behind us. I'm sure he's probably got a cell phone in his pocket right now, but it's something that we have now, and we try to make sure that we utilize it for education here at school. So if students want to bring, the key is if parents think the child is responsible to bring it, then we will allow them to bring it to school. And then while they're at school, we might use them for instructional purposes, certain apps that we will use. There might be certain websites that we utilize for education.